Have you ever wondered what really happens when someone begins to wake up spiritually? It is not what most people imagine. There are no golden lights or angelic choirs. You do not suddenly become perfect or peaceful all the time. The truth is quieter, stranger, and in many ways far more painful. Because waking up is not about gaining something new. It is about losing what was never real to begin with. You start to see through the game. The illusion you once believed was reality begins to dissolve. And once you see through it, you can never unsee it again. No one tells you that awakening comes with loss. Not because something is taken from you, but because falsehoods melt away once light touches them. Illusions cannot survive clarity. The first thing you lose is your ability to take the social game seriously. You no longer find comfort in pretending. You see people competing for recognition, collecting validation, carefully building their images. And you can see right through it. It looks like a dance everyone has agreed to perform, a ritual that keeps the illusion of importance alive. Before awakening, you probably played along too. You cared about your image, your reputation, how others saw you. But once you see it as a game, it loses its hold on you. You might still play, but you know it is a play. You know that none of it defines who you are. And this changes how people see you. Your old friends might call you distant or arrogant. They do not understand that you have simply stopped pretending. You are not better than them. You have just stopped believing that the emperor is wearing clothes. The second thing you lose is your innocence about human motivation. Before, you believed people meant what they said. You thought kindness always came from kindness. You believed people were who they claimed to be. But now you see the layers beneath. You see how much of what people do comes from fear, insecurity, and the longing to be seen. You notice the gap between words and actions. You watch how people preach compassion and still treat others with contempt. You see how much self-deception runs the world. And the hardest part is seeing it in yourself. You realize how much of your own goodness was also strategy. How often your reasons were excuses for fear or the desire to belong. This vision hurts because it burns away naivety. You can never go back to blind trust again. But it is not cynicism that replaces it. It is clarity. You become impossible to fool, not because you are bitter, but because you see through the masks, including your own. The third thing you lose is your belief in a solid, unchanging self. You start to notice that what you call me keeps shifting, different in every situation, different with every thought. You are not a rock. You are a river, always flowing, never the same. This is terrifying at first, because if there is no fixed self, who is living your life? Who is making decisions? Who is experiencing all this? The mind fights this truth. It wants control. But you cannot unknow what you have seen. The you thought was real was just a story the mind told itself. And once you stop defending that story, something amazing happens. The fear begins to dissolve. Because the self that could be hurt, or lost, or judged, was never real anyway. What nobody warns you about is the strange silence that follows this realization. It feels like someone turned off the background noise of your inner world. There is a quiet that is both peaceful and unsettling, as if the universe is no longer shouting instructions at you. You are left with a kind of spaciousness that your old identity cannot survive in. In that space, you begin to observe life instead of wrestling with it. You start to notice how thoughts rise and fall like waves, how emotions flare and fade without permission, how reactions you once believed were automatic begin to loosen their grip. It becomes clear that nothing inside you is permanent. Not the joy, not the sadness, not the confidence, not the doubt. Everything moves. And when everything moves, you begin to soften. You stop trying to hold life in a tight fist. You begin to let things pass through you without needing to claim them. The world does not shrink, yet it feels lighter. People do not change, yet they feel less threatening. You start to sense that awakening is not about becoming special. It is about becoming real. It is about living as you are, without the armor of who you think you should be. This part of the journey feels subtle from the outside, but inside, it is as if the ground beneath your identity has quietly opened, inviting you into a depth you never knew existed. The fourth thing you lose is your attachment to your own story. Every person builds a narrative to give life meaning. Where you came from, what you went through, what it all means. You use it to explain who you are. But awakening shows you that your story is just that, a story. You could tell it differently and create an entirely new version of yourself. The facts stay the same, but the meaning shifts completely. Once you see this, the story loses its weight. It becomes like a costume you wear, not your skin. The fifth thing you lose is your sense of meaning through achievement. Before awakening, you probably lived for goals. The next milestone, the next win. You thought purpose lived in progress. But as awareness deepens, you start to see the loop. Every goal achieved brings only temporary peace. Then, the hunger returns. You see that nothing external can give you lasting fulfillment. You begin to question the entire chase. And when you stop chasing, you realize something. Life itself was always enough. You were enough. The moment you stopped trying to become, you started to simply be. The sixth thing you lose is the old fear of other people's opinions. You stop living to be approved of. Not because you stop caring, but because you understand that what people think of you is really just what they think of their story about you. You see how every opinion reflects the one who holds it, not the one it's about. You cannot unsee this, and it frees you. You can finally act from truth instead of image. The seventh thing you lose is your ability to hate in the old righteous way. You stop seeing villains and victims. You see suffering behind every harmful act. You understand that pain breeds pain, that ignorance breeds ignorance. You can still protect yourself, still set boundaries, but you no longer need to feed hatred to feel strong. Compassion becomes clarity, not weakness. The eighth thing you lose is your obsession with being consistent. You no longer need to defend your old opinions. You allow yourself to change. You let yourself contradict yesterday's beliefs because you realize only dead things stay the same forever. You become fluid, alive, ever shifting. It feels strange at first, like groundlessness. But in truth, that is what freedom feels like. The ninth thing you lose is your tolerance for superficiality. Small talk begins to feel unbearable. You crave depth. You want to speak about truth, meaning, existence, love, and pain. You want real connection, not performance. But many people are not ready for that. So, you learn to stand quietly in your depth, even when the world around you prefers the surface. And finally, you lose your hope for a final arrival. You stop believing in that day, when everything will finally make sense, when you will be complete, peaceful, and done. You realize there is no destination. Life is not about arriving, it is about unfolding. There will always be new questions, new challenges, new endings and beginnings. And instead of despairing, you begin to see the beauty in that. Because the miracle is not in finishing the journey. It is in realizing that you were home all along. When you lose all these illusions, the games, the masks, the stories, the striving, what remains is not emptiness. It is freedom. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from falsehood. Freedom to live without pretending. Freedom to love without needing. Freedom to exist without constantly proving. It feels raw, even terrifying, at first. Like standing in an open sky with nothing to hold on to. But that openness is the truth itself.